Hope everyone is able to see my screen, right?
Yes.
Sure. Well, hello and good morning, everyone, and good evening, people who have joined from outside India. So thank you for joining us today. Welcome to our XHackers Xamarin Meetup of this month, June 2020. I'm your host, Durgesh Khandal. I work as a solution architect at Kimberly Clark, and in my free time, I usually play with Xamarin, part of like organizing the community events for Xamarin, and also an open source contributor at Xamarin.Forms. So if you feel like like you are stuck at some issue which you would like to get it fixed, or if you want to contribute to Xamarin.Forms code repository, feel free to reach out to me and I'll try to help you to start with contributing. Apart from me, we also have Swaminathan with us today. So I would like him to introduce himself and also greet our audience. Swami, if you can just unmute yourself. Yeah.
Hey, yeah, sure, Durgesh. Hey, good morning and good evening, guys. So good to be here. So this is Swami. So I work as an architect at Most Technology Center in Bangalore. I'm also on Microsoft MVP and the developer technologies for the past 4 years or so. So I've been part of this group, XHackers group, since 2016 or 2015. And I think I know for quite a while the group was getting into a dormant state, and good that Durgesh is back now, and then he's able to take over the organizing part of it. So at the moment, I don't really work on Xamarin. So I'm kind of trying to be here to learn and understand what's going on in this space. So I work as an architect, and I currently work with Azure and building cloud native solutions using microservices architecture and Azure PaaS services and things like that. Yeah, I'm also a member of .NET Foundation, and my GitHub handle is github.com/SV Swaminathan, and I blog at swaminathanvetri.in, and that's my Twitter handle. So you can reach out to me if you have any questions or feedback, or even if you want to participate in the meetups, or be it organizing or speaking, anything else. I'm also co-organizer of a couple of other meetups. There's one called B.NET, which is Bangalore.NET user group, and I'm also a co-organizer of Azure user group Bangalore. So yeah, so if you want to participate in any of these communities or contribute to any of the communities, please feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. I will be happy to take you there. All right, that's a quick
Thank,
intro.
yeah. Thank you, Swami. Lots of information and good to really good to have you here. All right. So for those who joined us for the first time, welcome again to our Xamarin user group. We are a global community of developers who develop mobile apps using Xamarin and also Microsoft and .NET landscape. Let me show you more about our group through our social channels. So you can find more details for our upcoming and past events, like recordings and all on this meetup. Basically, let me show you couple of our past events which we did. So earlier, so far we used to have in-person meetups. I think till last February, before this COVID situation, we used to have a half-day event with 3 sessions on Xamarin, and also in the past we did some hackathons, and we like come together on a weekend and build something on Xamarin. But given the current situation, we plan to continue our events and meetups virtually. And last time we started with our first virtual Xamarin event. Hope it was useful for you. And this is today's our second meetup. So we plan to continue our meetups virtually going forward. So here, I mean, on this our meetup group, you can find information about our past events. You can go through the discussion forums of these meetups in order to get recordings for the last meetups. Okay, and we are also there on Facebook, so you can utilize this group in case if you are having any doubts with working with your applications, or if you want to share any articles or best practices which you are following. You can see in this group, like we have like couple of articles as well as shared. So I mean, we have this space. Feel free to utilize this. We have almost around 1,000 Xamarin members as part of this group. And in Meetup, we have around 2,000 members. So would like to see this a community from especially globally, more participation and contributions. And We're also having a channel on Twitter, handle on Twitter. So as you know, most of the Xamarin community is active on Twitter. So you'll find a good content here as well. So let's just go back there. Feel free to utilize these social channels. Yep. So as usual, this is our favorite slide because I love contributions. And today we have with us Himanshu Dwivedi. He's a mobile application developer with almost 5 years of experience and expertise into Xamarin. He'll be walking us through collection view and Visual State Manager and beyond the basics. And then we have Pranav Tiwari. He's a Xamarin module lead, almost 6 years of experience with Xamarin, and he'll be showing us latest and greatest of Xamarin UI Test, a very useful module from Xamarin. So today's session is lots of like focused on more of like demos and real world use cases which you come across through while building your mobile applications. So stay tuned till the end. We have a lot of great content as part of these two sessions, though it seems or looks like very basics of Xamarin, but the content and the demos are really useful. So stay tuned till the end. So as part of the agenda, we'll start at 11:15, which is in next 5 minutes. We'll start with our first session with Himanshu, and then we'll have a break at 12:15. So you can utilize this break either to grab something, or you can. We will all be there in. In the event. You can also get together and chit chat with your other Xamarin peers, get to know about your other developers, what they are working on, and if you would like to share something. And then we'll start at 12:30, with Pranav about Xamarin UI Test, and we can wrap up things at 1:30 p.m. Yeah. And during the session, I request you to, please mute your mic, and you can post if you have any questions or doubts, you can post on chat window. We'll try to answer that. And anyways, at the end of each session, we have also kept 10 minutes of break for Q&A. So you can, during these 10 minutes at the end of the session, you can unmute your mic. You can feel free to ask any questions or doubts if you have. All right, then we'll start with our first session at 11:15 a.m. And in the meantime, I think if you have any questions, you would like to share any update, what great stuff you are building with Xamarin, you can feel free to unmute your mic right now. Once we start the session, just please mute your mic during the session. Yeah. So how is everyone doing? Anyone started, getting their hands on .NET MAUI? I know, it is still next year there is a launch, or by this year and there will be a preview launches, but anyone has gone through the .NET MAUI code base which we have?
I haven't heard any announcements. Is there something more? I remember at Build, they were saying that it was basically a find and replace of everything Xamarin with the word Maui instead, and not much more than that yet. Has there been some more development?
Yeah, development is going on, but like you said, there are no more announcements after the build. The team is working on, because in September there will be a major release for Xamarin.Forms, which is version 5. However, currently they are pre-releasing the versions like 4.6, 4.7, like that. Yeah, but related to .NET MAUI, yeah, there are no official announcements, but there are still like a couple of Xamarin folks. They are like who would like to proactively work on .NET MAUI or Xamarin stuff. So they are actually they are hosting and streaming a lot of good sessions related to that, where they are walking us through. Probably I think even as part of this meetup also, it would be good to see that session. I'll try from my end also, but if anyone is interested to join me to go through the .NET MAI code base and just try to understand, what new stuff will be there at the end of this year. It would be good to know. Yep. Mhm. Apart from that, there were like sessions. I think one of the which I remember, I'm not sure if you guys know him, Sam Basu. He's from Telerik community, and he streams. Actually, he started streaming just few weeks back on a regular basis. He has this full schedule from Monday to Friday for streaming the events. So join him on Twitch. Basically, most of the Xamarin community who are very active, they live stream on Twitch. So feel free to join him. He did a last session on .NET MAUI also, that what new stuff will be there, what team is working on, and what this .NET MAUI contains, as part of the solution and landscape. So it would be good to know, like in case if you're working for enterprise applications also, so there will be a migration, like announced in .NET Microsoft Build as well. So it would be good to know proactively that what that migration can contain, what all things we may need to change, right? So keep in touch, and watch these streams. It really contains a lot of good content there. Yeah.
Would you mind just spelling that name? I'm trying to look him up on Twitch.
Yeah, sure. Let me just post in the chat window itself.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So you can search. I mean, usually the Telerik community has this Twitch channel name as Code Life. Yep. All right. Yeah, and Swaminathan, Swami also has posted a complete roadmap for my. So it's good to take a look at that as well if you haven't got a chance. There is a FAQ section also there, which contains a lot of our general questions. So yep. I think we can start with our first session, and we'll continue our conversations as part of the chat box and after during the break. So good to have you here all, and let's kick off our Saturday morning with one of our great session with Himanshu Dwivedi. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Durgesh. I'm just sharing my screen. So just let me know if my screen is visible to everyone.
Yes, Himanshu, I can see your screen. Yeah.
Yeah, so hi everyone, good morning and good evening. So just a brief introduction about me. I'm Himanshu Dwivedi and I'm working as a Xamarin mobile app developer and designation level software developer level 2 in Blue Yonder, which was formerly known as JDA Software. So I'm working there as a Xamarin mobile app developer and I have around 4.5 years of experience, and in Xamarin I have around 4 years of experience. So majorly currently I'm working on Xamarin.Forms technology, had also work on some native like of Android, Xamarin.Android 2. So you can connect over with me on LinkedIn, GitHub, where I have like whatever the demos which I will be presenting here in this session. You can get all those source code from my GitHub. Stack Overflow, I'm also connected over there, have given answers to multiple questions on Xamarin. All right, so we'll start with my session since I will be covering two topics, collection view and the Visual State Manager. So in the collection view, with the start, we'll just give a brief introduction what exactly it is, and we'll see how it is different from the list view. Whatever the new updates which have come in collection view, and some of the use cases scenario where you should actually use the collection view, which makes life more easier. Some of the UI plugins, I have prepared some demo where you can use and make the collection view and UI more look good as like of a material UI. Some of the caching techniques, depending on some of the use cases of the application, where you can use some of the plugins to cache your data. Utilizing the template selector concept, I have just prepared a demo for this also. We'll see exactly how we can make use of this. Some theming things like these days, light theme and dark theme, these things are very popular. So I have just also a demo for those applications. And at last, some of the performance tips, some of like coding standard based on like we can make use to make the collection view performance more good. Similarly for the Visual State Manager, since the only will start with basics and some use case scenario, and same as for the latest update which has come for Visual State Manager. All right, so we'll kick off with collection view. So many of you might have used if worked on Xamarin. So collection view is a way, I mean, it's a control which let you the ability to present a list of a data in multiple layout specifications, and it is more flexible. A lot of properties are there to handle the items which are there in your collection view. And see, so since before that collection view, there was a list view which was already available in Xamarin.Forms, but it was having some limited features only. Just a comparison table I have drawn, which are the major features. For example, the first one and foremost, which is very important, is the orientation property. Since in the list view, it was only vertical. With collection view, you can have the horizontal and vertical both. Multiple selection is possible in collection view, which was not possible in list view. And view cell concept, which has been completely removed from collection view, and it has reduced the overhead of the virtualization and the mapping of the API which was been there on the native side, especially in Android. Separator, since in list view by default there was the property you can make visible as true or a false, and the separator between the items was there. In collection view there is no direct property for a separator, but you can define a kind of a box view component with some little height to make it look like a separator, and it is more customized. We'll see whatever the new updates which has come in Xamarin.Forms 4.3 for collection view. Since collection view was introduced in 4.0, and at that time it was in experimental stage, and in order to use that you have to have an experimental flag to be added on the main activity side and app delegate of the iOS, right? So with 4.3 updates, it has gone more stable, and you don't need to have any platform specific addition of an experimental flag over there. You can start directly using the collection view from your XAML or from the code behind. New updates which has come here is the empty view. It's a layout. I will just show you like how we can make use of this. If there is no item, you are calling an API, and at that time you are not getting any data. It's null. You want to show some message like there is no data available over there. Collection view has a template predefined, and you can define your message over there. And new items layout, some of the new items layout which has come is the linear layout, linear items layout, where the orientation you will get horizontal and vertical since it's there already. We'll get the item spacing, item snapping properties. I will just show all the examples of all these properties, and we'll see how exactly they can be used. Grid items layout, which is very good, and we'll see in a demo of this also. And at last, a lazy loading concept, which is really used in some real-time scenarios of the application, while applications, where we can make use of how this remaining items threshold reached command and parameter. We can all make use of these properties to make collection view more intuitive. All right, so we'll start with some of the, I will show some of the demos which I have prepared for this. Just a minute. I'll just deploy my app. It's already done. So in the folder structure, if you see, I have prepared a demo where I have taken in just a master detail page template where I have given all examples of the vertical collection view, horizontal collection view, vertical row, which is a grid layout, and a refresh view, which is a lazy loading concept. So all these examples are there in this one app only. I will be using here just a one view model, which I have bound to all these layouts. So we'll start with the vertical row. So if you see here in code level, you can define the collection view directly like this collection view, and there is a properties there such as item source, and item source is the items, and this items actually I'm just binding some of the static data over here. This is static data I'm just calling, and this method execute load item async, and this method calls and get the data. There is a class which I have created to get the data as a mock data. I'm just I'm just duplicating some of the objects over here. So in this application, what I have done, in order to get a data of an employee, there is an image, there is a name, phone number, email ID, and the designation of that employee. In order to create and replicate this behavior, the object, each and every object of this collection view item contains these informations. Now this item source I have bound to this collection view as item source binding items. And if you see here, the way we can just set the item layout like this, and we can set the orientation as vertical, and hence because of this orientation property set, this item is coming in a vertical fashion. So this is how we can manipulate the presentation of a data. Similarly, for horizontal view, like the items, we have to set the orientation as horizontal, and the same data will be now will be rendered in a horizontal order like this. This is how we can manipulate the orientation thing. Again, the third example for here is the vertical row collection. Vertical row is like simply the grid items layout. So here the items will be presented in this format where each row will contain two items over there. And in order to get this, since for horizontal view, if you see, I'm using items layout as a linear item layout. In order to have this grid kind of a structure, you have to use a grid items layout, and you need to define like span. What is, I mean, a span will actually tell you like in each row how many data template you want to present. Since I have given two, that's what in each row, two data templates are being presented. There are properties. I will start discussing about all these collection view which are there. The first item layout, which I already discussed, where you can set the orientation. The second thing, the property comes as item sizing strategy. So if you have been familiar with the list view, there is a property has uneven row. So there in collection view, we have this item sizing property. The first one is measure all items. So measure all items is the default one, which is already set if you don't define this property. So what it will do here, measure all items. If you go here in the vertical list view collection, if you see, so what it will do, automatically it will measure the list of items which are presented inside the item template of a collection view, and automatically it will resize it since I have these items, and automatically the template of each item is getting resized and it's getting presented. The other one property is, just a minute, measure first item. If you set this as a property of item sizing strategy, what it will do here, for example, it will only measure the size of the first item of the collection view, and for rest of the collection view, all the size will be followed by the first one only. In order to make your collection view item data template to be uniform, you can make use of this property. So for example, if the first item has this much of size, let's assume this is 50 px in the height, and second and third, whatever the preceding elements will follow the same height of this item. So measure the first item, it will only measure, and rest of the items will follow the same height. So this property can be used if you want your collection view to be uniform. Right. So there a property called header, and in this header you can define the templates. Like for a collection view, you want to have a header, and that header will show an information about what kind of list data you are presenting. You can define your header. Along with this, you can define your template, like what label you might be giving to present the header data. You can use and define inside this header template. There is a property where you can like make is header if collection view dot header. Sorry, header template will come. Second. Header template. So here in this, you can define there is one property called as is header sticky. It's not coming. Just a minute. So is header sticky, what it will do when you will scroll, the header which will be displayed here, it will be sticky. It will not scroll with this complete collection view. So if there is a requirement you want to have a header for your collection view, you can define using this header template. Since this example I have not included and it's not used all the time, it depends on the application's requirement. Similarly, there is a footer for this. At the end of the collection view, you want to define your footer. You can do for that. And now comes an empty view, which I was discussing, which this came in Xamarin 4.3. So here in this, you can define your like whatever what kind of information you want to show to the user when there is no data. When the item source, it will automatically detect if your items is null and there is no data, and instead of presenting this items layout, it will display the empty view, and you can define your template over here such as no data available, like that. So this empty view is very useful. Before that, in list view, in order to have this kind of scenario to be handled, you have to have another layout which was on the top of that list view, and it was invisible if there is no data in the item source, and used to make it as visible for that particular message. Here that overhead is not there. You can directly supply this message using an empty view template. Now there's a multiple selection option which has recently come is the selection mode. You can make it as multiple or a single, such as for example, if you see in this case, if I have this grid layout and this could be some gallery image, and if I want to select each and every data, for example, if I want to select this one also, we can set the mode as single or multiple. Automatically it will select those items which are there in the collection view. If you set it as none, so it will not be selectable by default. All right, so these are the few properties. Now we'll see I will just show you some of the use case scenario where actually these are used. So the first one is the chat application UI. So if you see here in the chat application UI, there is templates are created for the senders and the receivers chat text area. And since this example is already there on GitHub and you can make use of this, and this example is been developed using a list view. This is the best example where you can make use of a collection view, because in collection view there is one thing which you will be able to get it. So for example, what happens here, whatever the message will type, and let's suppose this message is coming this much, it's already, the screen is already filled. Let's assume you have typed a message and you just you just clicked on send. So what will happen, it should scroll automatically, your last message should be visible to you. So here in collection view, what you can do here, there is one property which you will get called as items updating scroll mode. This has three properties: keep items in view, keep last item in view, keep scroll offset. In the case of a chat application UI, if you set this keep last item in view, what it will do, the moment you will just hit the send button of your message, it will automatically scroll and make the last item to be presented right over here. You don't have to put some extra effort to scroll this, and this is actually comes under the UX, the user experience level. Whatever I have sent, it should be visible, right? So in this case, you can make use of a collection view. There is direct property available as items updating scroll mode, and you can set it as keep last item in view, and some other properties which are there as items in view, like already the whatever in the first item it will scroll. The keep scroll offset is like you want to give some specific offset to a specific item that should be scrolled. You can make use of that all too also. So this is the first use case scenario of this collection view. Second one, many of you might be aware. So let's say this is a application, a property app. It's a no broker app. It's there, and if you see, there are like cards are there, and it's kind of a list which is presenting some of the properties which are available. So if you have noticed, if you scroll these cards inside this, what will happen? Each and every card will be presented in the visible area. And here comes, there is a property called an item snapping. How we can make use of this item snapping, what it will do here, I'll just show here. For example, just come over this vertical collection view. Normally we scroll like this, and let's say I'm scrolling, I just left the scroll over here. See this item. So this item, like since I have left the scroll, so this has stopped here. What if you set the item snapping property, what it will do here, the moment you will scroll and the moment you will stop scrolling, it will see and it will check the closest element. For example, this could be the closest item in the list view, in the collection view, and instead of making it as partially visible, it will automatically set this item in this visible area. How? We'll see here. So normally if I'm scrolling and if I stop here, this item is partially visible. If I set the item snapping property here in the vertical, just see the effect, how it comes. Just a minute, it's updating. Snap point type, right? Snap point alignment, I will set it as start. Snap point type as mandatory. It should not be partially visible. It should be visible. It should automatically calculate. Now just see the effect. Now I'm scrolling. See, I'm just stopping, and it is, there is no like automatically it is calculating. See, I'm just scrolling like this. It is automatically getting set. I don't have to worry about like it is getting partially visible or not. It is automatically calculating the visible area, the closest item of this collection view, and it is visible like this. So this thing comes under the UX, like you want your application to be more intuitive. In this case, you can make use of this item snapping property. I think I need to deploy to see the effect. Hot reload is not working. See, I'm just scrolling. It is automatically setting the first item, the closest item in a visible range of this collection view. So this is how you can make use of this item snapping property. So this is what the use case of item snapping. Now we'll come to this infinite scroll, the lazy loading concept, which I just showed here is. So you might have seen, let's say this data is presented over here and you want to refresh the data. In list view, there was a property called as is pull to refresh, and you can bind the refresh command. Here, there is no direct property as is pull to refresh. You have to keep your collection view inside another view called as a refresh view. What it will do, you just need to supply a command, and the moment you will just drag this collection view from top, you'll get this loader, and your command will be fired automatically, and it will again refresh the data, whatever will be presented. So this is how you can make this behavior in practical. And this is usually used in a lot of cases where you are getting the data from API, right? In order to have this property work, you just need to supply this refresh view. That's it. Another case is the infinite scroll. Let's say in first attempt you have received 10 set of a data from the API and you are scrolling again to get another 10 set of a data from the API. You can make use of this property called as remaining items threshold command. How exactly it work? I'll just scroll and see this loader has started and I have given a delay. So rest of the items now which has appended to this collection view. So how it will work here, a property which is used as remaining items threshold, and this item threshold is an integer which is bound here. I have given a value as 1. So in this case, a property which is required to be handled, this event is raised when the handler make the asynchronous call to the server. Like this event will be raised automatically, this execute load command async, which I have bound to this threshold items threshold command. If you see here, this is the items threshold command, and I'm just calling this items threshold command reached. And this is again calling and appending the next set of the data. So you can keep on just making like this. If you set the items threshold value as -1, so there is no impact, and this is the default value of this. And obvious for this, the item source which is bound to this should be of type observable collection, because the next set of data which is appended, it has to be notified to the collection view, and hence we have to make use of this observable collection. All right, so these were the basics where I have simply used some of the layouts to use this. And in order to just give a brief about this, how I have made this UI, it's not that very difficult. Simply I'm using a frame inside it. This is a frame and simply some labels image. And for this image, I'm using a plugin called as a circle image, which is available in NuGet. You can make use of that. And normally like this, I have provided some static styles from here to make this UI more intuitive like this. All right, so I will just switch to another demo of this collection view where we'll see exactly how we can make use of collection view in more appropriate way. So we'll discuss. I have prepared an example of a news article. Just show you how exactly it works. So in the meanwhile, I will just tell you, like, in for this example, just a moment. I'm using this API as news API, so you can make use of this global API for trial version. And here you can call the API to get the data, and you can append like which country's news you want to have. For example, in this you need to supply the endpoints using this country is equal to US if you want to get the news headlines of US, and then just an API key is required to be passed in this. So in this example, I have used this one. So just see how it's exactly it is. All right, so see, these are the APIs. Since I have set the country as India, hence I'm getting the top headlines of the news of today, 13th June. So I have made use of this collection view. I am just presenting the news data with images, some of the headlines along with a little bit description over here. So you can see here. And before that, I'll just start with how I have made this app. So if you can notice, there is a a material UI you can see here. In order to make use of this kind of a layout, in order to develop, you can make use some of the plugins which are very popular these days, called as a pancake view. This is available in the NuGet here. You can just directly use as Xamarin.Forms Pancake view. So what it will do, create it will let you to create a layout like this, some rounded corners, some kind of a shadow, and you will get actually a feel of a material UI like this. So here, if you see here, here I'm using this material UI inside this pancake view. I will just start from here. First one, this collection view. Mainly I have to first focus on the collection view. I have given the item template as a news article template selector. I will discuss later how exactly it is working. Before that, just see I'm using order the items layout, where I have given the orientation as vertical, and I'm binding the item source as articles. This articles I am just calling an API which I just showed you. This article is API manager class I have just given this URL to get the news data, and in the URL C I have given country is equal to IN, which is India, and the page size I have given as 10. That means in the first set I will be expecting 10 headlines of India of today, right? So this is how you can make use of these parameters in this URL, and normally I'm just calling this API to get the data, and hence it is presented over here. So I will just give you a brief about this layout, how exactly this layout is created. Just a basic MVVM approach I have given. There is a template. I have given this news article card component. And here, if you see, I have just taken a pancake view, and I'm using a FFF image to load this image, which is itself coming from an API, right? Since FF image provides you the caching strategy, that's what I have used this FF image. And normally I have used this label with some bold property, and again these are the some small labels which is giving you a description of this. Here I will discuss one thing, a caching strategy which you can make use of one of the plugin called, I will just show here, monkey cache.filestore. Right. So what it will do here, since in one go I'm getting this 10 set of headlines, right? What if I just stop this application, and if I come again, let's say I have killed it, and if I come again, since I cannot show since it's on emulator, let's say there is no internet connection available, instead of showing a blank screen, you should show what was the last headline which the user has saw, like which the user has given. Like you can make use of some refresh view or something like that. So the last which he has seen, he can make a use of that plugin to see this news instead of a blank screen. So this kind of plugin which you can make use is this. How it is, how exactly on the code level it is working. I'm getting this JSON data. I'm just deserializing this, and with key I'm storing this JSON itself directly, right? This deserialized JSON I'm storing. Barrel, this is coming from monkey.cache.filestore, and it is actually storing in the form of a file. So this thing you can also make use of a SQLite, but SQLite is more of crude operation when it is required. If you see the use case of this application, simply it's the purpose to view the news headlines. In order to make use of this caching strategy, you can make use of this plugin to store the data. In case the user comes back and there is no internet connection, at least you should show what was the last he has seen. So in order to have this, you have to just write one line of a code. You can give the expiration time, like one day it will be expired. In that case, as per your requirement, you can have the expiration time set like this. So this was the caching strategy which you can make use. All right. Another thing, a template selector, which I discussed. If you see, this is coming like this card view. There is a button I have created. I will just switch to a list tile view like this. So it has now the UI has changed. And these are very popular. Like if you have used the Lenskart application, there you might have seen uh, sometimes the products are listed like this. You want to give the flexibility to view the product in one screen like this. You can have a view like this. How it is achieved using single collection view is using the template selector concept here. So normally in XAML, if you see, we define the data template for the collection view items layout like this. We just write the item template and we just open the data template tag. And let's say, since this I have defined in another file called as templates. So just need to import here as template, give the folder location from where these templates are been defined, the XAML thing, and you can access here like this. But now I'm not using this way. I have given a property called as an item template, and I am giving a static resource as news article template selector. And news article template selector is defined in the content resource of this page itself. I have given a key. See, this is a data template as a card view, and it should get the card view from the template folder, which is available in news article card component. The second one is a news article tile component. This view, this is a tile component view. This I am accessing again from that same template folder, and I have given a key as news article card template selector. You have to have a class news article template selector like this, and this you have to have targeted on the XAML. 1 second. This way. Template, news article, card template selector. This class you have to provide over here inside this. So what it will do here, for each and every item when it will be rendered for the first time, it will call this method, and I'm inside this item, this model article. So this article item contains these informations such as source, author, title. Let's say this is the title, description, this smaller text, gray area, the gray text, which are the description. URL to image is this URL to image. These information I am getting from an API. Another property which I have added, which is not the part of an API, that's what I have given this JSON ignore, which is the Newtonsoft JSON plugin I'm using. I have given a template type as card by default. So for the first time, if you just refresh for the first time, if you come to this app, the news articles will be presented in this card layout style. So what will happen when it will be rendered for the first time? I will check what is the template type. If the template type is card, that's what it will pick, the card view template, which will be presented like this. And if I change this to a list tile view, if I click on this, I have given an event on this and I change the behavior of the template to tile. Just see from here. I'll just give you change layout method. I have just given here. What it will do here, if it is of a card view, I will set the template types of each and every item as a card. And if it is a list view, then I will set each and every type of a template type for a collection view item as a list. And hence, accordingly, the template selector will pick and decide which template he has to present. So this is how you can make use of a template selector to present the data in multiple template format just using a single collection view. And these are very really real-time scenarios which you will see in a lot of applications which are available. All right, so this was about the template selector. The last one, this one, it's very cool, since this is, if you see, this is a light theme I am working. I have defined some styles. So for light theme, the application UI will look like this. You can just customize your header. I have not customized this header for Android. That's what you can either remove this and make this UI completely white. And see, if I just change the theme here, so initialization of the theme which I have done from this app SAML file. So instead of light theme, I will just give the dark theme. We'll see the behavior, how exactly it will look like. So you can see this is the dark theme now. Same behavior all will work like this for this list style also. Since this behavior I'm currently manipulating from the code, and again I am deploying it, I will just give it, I will just upload it on my GitHub, and you can give some switch button and you can just switch it to change it dynamically. This thing, it's better you try on yourself to get some better understanding how it will work. That's what I have not included, this functionality of having a button directly over here and changing the theme directly from there. So this is something pretty cool for having this kind of a layout with dark and light theme, which is very popular. And one thing you can make use of, like you can write some platform specific code, because these days, if you see in the latest version of Android, if your Android I mean, you have already set from the settings the complete phone theme as a dark theme. So what will happen once you will launch the app, some platform specific code you can write and check what is the theme of your current application, current mobile app from the settings. If it is a light theme, then automatically you can use the light theme for your app, and if it is a dark theme, then automatically you can set the dark theme of your app. So it depends on your mobile phone, what is the theme is being set on your mobile device. Accordingly, the behavior of your application will work. So this is how you can do. Okay, so we'll switch to my slide here, and some of the performance tips we'll be discussing. So by default, if you see, I mean, whatever the observer collection you have defined, it is not thread safe by default. And if you try to access your observable collection, which is bound to a collection view from some different thread at the same time, you will get this exception: system.argument out of range exception. A specified argument was out of range. I'm sure many of you might not have used this, but this is a good practice to make your observable collection thread safe, because by default it is not thread safe. I'll just show you example how we can make use. Normally in the view model, see here, I have just initialized, I have just defined here, and we initialize this observable collection inside this constructor. You just need to have this line where this method binding base, which is this method enable collection synchronization. It is coming from binding base class, and it is a part of a Xamarin.Forms itself. What you have to do here, you just have to supply your collection here, which is the items which you have initialized, and the second parameter is an object, the context. If it is in different class, you can provide that context. Otherwise, the third parameter is the observable collection callback method, and this callback method will do that thing. You just have to have a lock method which will take this collection I enumerable, and this will actually make your observable collection thread safe. You don't have to put much effort. In this way, let's say your collection view, which is bound to a let's say your item source, which is bound to a collection view, and if it is being used from one of the thread at the same time, let's say in some SQLite kind of scenario where using the database from some other screen or from some other functionality and operation, you are again modifying that. This will take care of this thread safety, you will not get the exception, and your application will not crash. So it's a good practice to make your observable collection thread safe just by adding this method, and just by adding and calling this enable collection synchronization inside your constructor after the initialization of this collection, observable collection. So this is how you can make use of this. Coming to the third thing, since this data I have taken from one of the GitHub, so performance, if we compare for the collection view and the list view, if you see the rendering time for the list view is almost like 50 milliseconds. At the same time, the rendering for the collection view is almost half, right? So in this way, collection view performs much better as compared to the list view. So there, I think we can make use of this. Other things in terms of like I just told like some of the plugins which we can make use. I will just show it again. This news article example. So in order to make your collection view with some more performance, like you can make use of a FFF image, which is many of you might have been aware that provides the caching strategy for that. And it's better nowadays since FFF image is now supporting this SVG image. So in your application, if your application is having lots of images to be presented inside a collection or inside any kind of view, where you should use a SVG image format, and SVG will take care of all the resolutions related stuff. You don't have to worry for iOS as at the rate 2x and at the rate 3x resolutions of the images to be placed in the resource. process. Same as for Android drawable, you have to keep each and every resolution of the images over there. With SVG, you can have your folder of images inside this PCL, I mean this collection view, the shared library itself here, and portable library here. You can make a folder as image and put all those SVG images directly over here, and you'll see there will be a significant improvement in the performance of this rendering. All right, so I think this is all about the collection view. I will just upload all these demos of the collection view on my GitHub, and you can just clone it and play around with all these examples. So is it good? Should I move to this Visual State Manager?
Yep, all good. Himanshu, I think we can take the questions at the end. Yeah, you
Sure.
can move.
Okay. All right, so we'll see the Visual State Manager. So since the Visual State Manager, which provides a structural way to make the visual changes to your control based on some specific conditions. Since this was available in Xamarin 3.0, it was introduced, but I think it was not very used at that time frequently. But I think there are some scenarios which I will show you where you can actually make use of this Visual State Manager, which is really very helpful. So by default, Xamarin.Forms Visual State Manager, we have some of the states which are available predefined, such as normal, disabled, focused, and selected. So what you can do here is, like, based on some of the states you want to change the behavior of your application, you can make use of this Visual State Manager. So behavior here in the sense of, like, you want to change a background color based on some specific conditions, you can do that. So we'll see an example first. The same collection view, if you just go here, I'll just deploy it again, the basic example of the collection view. I think need to restart this. All right, just okay. So for this example, the grid layout, where I'm just presenting the collection view in this format, and if you see, if I just select it, and this color, which is orange color, which is the default color of this Android, same goes for this master detail page where I have a list. So by default, this color, you might have been aware about this. Let's say I want to change the color if the item is selected, and I want to change the color with from orange to some different color. We can make use of this collection view to have this. I'll just go to this example again. Vertical row. Say this is a frame. This complete area, it's a frame, and I have already provided some style over here, which is static style coming from this corner radius, padding, horizontal options, and other things. See this Visual State Manager, I will make use of here. I have used this common states, which I just showed you in normal states and selected states. So what I want when it is selected, like when I'm selecting, it should be of some different color. Let's say I will give a light gray color. And see hot reloading should work, otherwise need to restart. Once again, I need to restart. So I have changed this background color. All right, so if I select, one second, it's not working, just a minute. Sorry, I think it's transparent instead of light gray. I'll set some different color as red. I'm not sure why it is not working. It should work actually. So this is the only way where you can change this color via using this property. Why it is not working? Just a minute. Need to check this out. Sorry, I think the target type I have given wrong. The target type is frame actually. Since I have to change the background color of a frame, that's what it was not working. Yes. I think I need to check why exactly this is not working. All right, so I will just update this. Another thing is since I click on this and let's say I move to this item again, and I want like this item should not be selected. In order to achieve this in your view model, what you have to do here is when the item is selected, you should manually deselect the item so that when you will come back again, it will not be selected. And this is actually required in some of the real case scenarios of the application where you don't want that item to be highlighted once you come back again. And if it is required, then you can make this as, so let's say I'm here. I select this item, and if I go back, so it is not selected. Earlier, if I, since I had commented this, so that's what that selected behavior it was coming. If I select this, it's getting highlighted, but if I come back, it's not selected. So this is how you can achieve where you can just make the selected item null. Once the selection has been done, you have pushed the page. I'm just pushing the page again, setting these informations, passing the object of this particular item and coming back, it's not selected again. So this is how we can achieve this behavior. So just one thing, how exactly this Visual State Manager works, since the Visual State group is supported for all the classes that is derived from the visual element. So the visual element derivation, I will just take you on the Xamarin doc where you can understand. For example, if I am applying a visual state behavior to a frame, and hence, since if you see the inheritance of the frame, it's been inherited from the content view, and see, this is a part of this visual element also, inheritance behavior if you see. So whatever the controls, the layouts which are a part like from which are inherited from this visual element, you can apply those visual states to all those elements right away. So this is how Visual State Manager works. So in 4.5, there is one target name property which has been introduced for the Visual State Manager. This target name gives you the flexibility where you can change the property of a control within the visual tree. How exactly it works, I'll just show. I'll just switch to my news app. Second. Yeah. So these two buttons. So I have made use of this visual state behavior. So what happens here, if you see, if I select the color, the background changes, it gets highlighted, this one gets deselected. This behavior I have done via Visual State Manager, and you can also see how exactly it is working. So for this, I have taken a stack layout. So this is a stack layout area, and inside it, I have used a pancake view. Since this pancake view will give you a UI like this, where you can have a corner property at one side. Let's say for this particular button, I have used the corner property only on the left side. For this button, I have used the corner property on the right side and kept all these together. There is no spacing, and that's what it looked like, a toggle button like this. Here, if you see here, I have provided this square icon, and this is the font awesome icon. That's what have used a label, and you can see, check the code, font awesome library I'm using to get this icon as a square icon. The same thing for the list icon, I'm using again the font awesome icon. So what happens, I have defined a visual state here. In the visual state, what I have done, I have just given a state name as a color states and have given a visual state as select and unselect. So what it should do for the first button, like when it is selected, the background color should be primary. I mean, whatever the primary color which I have defined in my style. And the square icon is this particular icon, which is the font awesome icon. Its color should also gets changed. So that's what I have provided the value as background from some dynamic resource. So here this target name, how exactly it is working. So this visual state I have defined, which is under this pancake view. So this belongs to this pancake view. Since this label, it is also a part of a pancake view. It's a child of a pancake view. In order to target this, I will just directly define a proper setter property with target name as a square icon. This square icon is nothing the X name of this label, and correspondingly I will be changing the color of this. Without the target name, you have to have again a visual state manager separately for the label. Earlier, when there was no target name which was being introduced, so we have to define the visual state for each and every child separately. With this target name property, you can just have a X name for your child element, and inside this, using a X name, you can target that element and change the property, the behavior what you want to have. So this is how you can make use of this target name in the Visual State Manager. The same thing for the second button I have given here. When it is in unselect state, the background color changes. When it is in a select state, the background color changes. And there is just a code behind need to handle this on a tap event. When it is a select state, I will just toggle this event and it will change the state. So this Visual State Manager class, you just need to call this go to state, and these are the X name of those pancake view, and these are the color states which I am just providing. So color states are select and unselect, which I am just directly using inside my news article view as unselect or a select. So in this way, you can control the behavior and make use of this Visual State Manager. All right, so there is one more thing in the Visual State Manager where you can make use. This one is the adaptive layout. I'll just show an example how this layout will work. All right, so if you see, let's take an example. Since these are not the actual controls for the chart or a graph, I am using an image. This could be a dashboard of your application. All right. So if I just, so currently it's in a portrait mode. If I just tilt and switch to the landscape mode, this is how the UI will look like. You can have a look of rest of the items while keeping all these inside a scroll view, but I don't want to make use of a scroll view. I want to make a UI automatically adjust according to the orientation. How we'll do here, we'll see. I'll just show you. I'll just make use of a Visual State Manager like this. So now it is in a portrait view. It is looking like this. This is a bar graph. This is a bar graph. This is a pie chart and a bullet graph like this. If I just tilt and switch to the orientation to the landscape, I have adjusted these items like this. And it's very intuitive. It's very readable. You don't have to scroll again to see the data. So this is how we can achieve using a Visual State Manager. How, we'll see on the code level. There's a class layout which I have defined as a responsive layout. Have make use of grid. This is the first row and this is the second row. The first row I have kept only the graph. Second row I have kept these two items as pie chart and this bullet chart in this way. So what happens through the Visual State Manager, I have defined like based on some orientation, I will change the grid values as this particular item should switch to the row 1, and when it is on a portrait mode and when it is a landscape mode, the grid value should change to 0. In this way, you can control this. And for this, there is one method which we have to override on the code behind on size allocated. So it will be called once you switch the orientation, and it will calculate like what is the mode right now. It's a portrait or a landscape. Accordingly, you can call this go state. This is the detail box, which is just a X name of this content view, and this detail box is this particular area which contains the pie chart and the bullet chart. And accordingly, you can set the behavior, make it which area to be visible in which order. So this is how you can actually make use of a Visual State Manager to make your UI more responsive. I'm sure many of you might not have used these kind of implementation, but it is really used. It reduces the overhead of the code, also the XAML side. All right, so this was all about my presentation. So I'll just upload all those code which are available, which will be available on my GitHub. Thanks, everyone. So we'll take a question later or just write.
Thank you, Himanshu. It was really a, lot of information to absorb in, to be honest. Yeah, it was a really great session. I think we can
Thank
start
you.
with yeah, we can start with question and answers. And in the meantime, we can also take a break
Yeah.
because we do have another session at 12:30.
Yeah.
So guys, like if you want to have a break, grab something, feel free to have a break. And especially if you have any questions, guys, who want to do some, networking, chit chat, queries, doubts, anything, we are here right now. So please unmute yourself and you can ask questions. I think we can start with one of the questions which we have in the chat box from Kathir Velu. If I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. So yeah, if
I don't.
yeah, the
I
question is related to you can go to the chat box section.
I
Yeah.
think I go. It's not visible to me.
Okay, let me read like on
Okay.
his behalf. Yeah, so the
Yeah.
question is related to, is there any possibility to set different span settings to collection view? So for example, like first item can have a single span setting, and the alternate items like second or third items can have a two span collection. So have you ever played with span settings in collection view, Himanshu?
No, so span usually, no, in that case, it will be uniformly applied to the element. You cannot, I think, separately need to figure it out, but usually it is applied uniformly. So if you have span is 2, so in that case, obviously,